The frozen wasteland of Iceball R67/4 had never been a hospitable place, but humanity had tamed it. The planet's surface remained locked in eternal winter, with temperatures dropping to -120 degrees during the night cycle. Windstorms carried ice crystals sharp enough to cut through standard protection gear. Yet beneath this harsh exterior lay treasures worth the struggle, rare minerals essential for faster-than-light travel. 2,000 colonists called this frozen hell home. They had built an underground network of habitation domes, research facilities, and mining operations. Life on R67/4 was difficult but purposeful. The colony supplied 15% of Earth's quantum stabilizers, making them essential to humanity's expansion among the stars. Director Jin-Ho Kim walked through the central corridor, nodding at passing workers. At 53, he had spent 12 years overseeing the colony's operations. His silver-streaked black hair and weathered face reflected the hardships of frontier life, but his eyes remained sharp and observant. He entered the command center for the morning briefing, where department heads gathered around the holographic display. Production exceeded targets by 3% this quarter, reported mining supervisor Yun-Su. The new eastern shaft is proving particularly rich in. The proximity alarms cut her off mid-sentence. Red lights pulsed throughout the command center as the tactical officer rushed to his station. Unidentified objects approaching from Sector 7, he announced, fingers flying across his console. Count is 13 vessels. No match to any known configuration. Director Kim moved to the main view screen. Origin. Unknown, sir. They weren't there on our last sensor sweep. It's as if they just appeared. The vessels came into visual range. Unlike the utilitarian human ships, these craft possessed an alien beauty, crystalline structures that seemed to grow rather than be built. They refracted the pale light of R67/4's distant sun into prismatic beams that danced across their surfaces. Are they responding to hails? Kim asked. Negative. I've tried all standard protocols. Security Chief Ta Woo Park burst into the command center, his uniform disheveled. Sir, we're receiving a transmission. Audio only, untranslatable. Our computers are working on it. The sound that filled the command center sent chills through everyone present, a high-pitched series of tones that seemed to resonate with the metal in the room. Got it, announced Communications Officer Yuna. Translation matrix adapting. There. A flat, mechanical voice replaced the tones. Carbon infestation detected. Purification protocol initiated. Navy collective claims this world. Open a channel, ordered Kim. This is Director Jin-Ho Kim of the Earth Colony R67/4. We wish to establish peaceful contact and... The transmission cut off abruptly. They're moving into attack formation, warned the tactical officer. Kim's face hardened. Sound general alarm. All non-essential personnel to shelter zones. Security teams to defensive positions. Throughout the colony, warning klaxons blared. Civilians rushed to designated shelter areas, while security personnel grabbed weapons and moved to their stations. Sir, Park said quietly, our defenses were designed for pirate raids and meteor strikes, not whatever these are. Kim nodded grimly. I know. Alert Earth immediately. Priority 1 distress signal. The alien vessels positioned themselves in a perfect geometric pattern above the colony's main entrance. The first attack came at dusk, when the planet's already frigid temperature plummeted further. Beams of concentrated energy lanced down from the crystalline ships, cutting through the colony's outer defenses like they were paper. Security teams returned fire, but their weapons seemed ineffective against the alien hulls. They're landing, shouted Park over the comm system. North and south entrances simultaneously. The Navi emerged from their vessels, towering humanoid figures with faceted, crystalline bodies that reflected light in hypnotic patterns. They moved with eerie precision, each step perfectly coordinated with their compatriots. Their armor, if it could be called that, seemed part of their bodies, growing and shifting with their movements. Standard bullets bounced harmlessly off their forms, Only the colony's heaviest mining lasers showed any effect, and even then, the damage was minimal. Fall back to secondary positions, Park ordered his security teams. Concentrate fire on joint areas. For 2 hours, the colonists fought valiantly to defend their home. But the Na'vi advanced methodically, section by section, their crystalline weapons firing beams that disintegrated human flesh on contact. In the command center, Kim received the grim reports. Half the colony had fallen. Communications with Earth remained intact, but only barely as the Na'vi targeted key infrastructure. "Sir," said Yuna, "we've captured more of their communications. They're silicon-based life forms. They see us as contamination, organic pollution." Kim looked at the dwindling security feeds showing his people fighting and dying. "Prepare emergency protocols. Get as many people to the backup shelters as possible, and ready the final transmission package." As the Na'vi forces approached the command center, Kim recorded his message. His voice remained steady despite the sounds of battle growing closer. "This is Director Jin-Ho Kim of Iceball R67/4. We are under attack by a previously unknown species who call themselves the Na'vi. They are silicon-based life, viewing carbon-based organisms as contamination to be purged. Their technology exceeds our defensive capabilities. They see us as carbon contamination. They want the planet, not peaceful coexistence. Earth must know. We've encountered something beyond our experience. Send help. Send everything." The door to the command center exploded inward as he finished. Crystalline figures strode through the smoke, their faceted bodies casting prismatic reflections across the walls. Kim pressed the transmission button as the First Navy raised its weapon. 3 weeks later, the message arrived at Earth Command. Multiple attempts to contact the colony followed. All met with silence. Iceball R67/4 had gone completely dark. The emergency meeting of the United Earth Defense Council stretched into its 5th hour. 20 high-ranking military officials sat around the oval table, their faces grim under the harsh lighting of Earth Command's secure bunker. Holographic displays showed the last transmission from Iceball R67/4 on continuous loop. Director Kim's final words echoed through the chamber once more before Admiral Sung-Min Lee silenced the playback with a gesture. The Admiral stood, his weathered face flushed with barely contained anger. At 63, he had served in Earth's defense forces for over 40 years and commanded respect even from his opponents. He brought his fist down hard on the polished table surface, making water glasses jump. "This debate has gone on long enough," he said, his voice cutting through the murmurs. "We cannot abandon our people, not while there's any chance survivors remain." General Yang Choi shook his head. "Admiral, I understand your feelings, but we must be realistic. The colony went dark 3 weeks ago. We have no confirmed survivors. Committing military resources to what might be a rescue mission for the dead is our duty," interrupted Lee. 2,000 colonists, families, Earth citizens who went to that frozen rock because we asked them to, because we needed the minerals they mine. And now, at the first sign of danger, we debate whether they're worth saving. The room fell silent. Lee's words had struck home, but practical concerns remained. Defense Minister Han leaned forward, hands clasped before him. "The question isn't whether they deserve our help, Admiral. It's whether we can effectively provide it. These Na'vi overwhelmed a fortified colony in hours. We know almost nothing about their capabilities." Colonel Ji-Hai Song stood from her seat at the far end of the table. Unlike most of the aging council members, she was in her mid-30s, with short black hair and the confident bearing of a career Marine. The room's attention shifted to her. "My Marines are ready, Admiral. The UEA's vengeance can deploy within 48 hours. General Choi scoffed. "With what battle plan, Colonel? We know nothing about these Na'vi or their capabilities beyond what little Director Kim managed to transmit." Colonel Song nodded to her aide, who activated the main holographic display. A detailed tactical simulation appeared above the table. Operation Frostbite, she said. A stealth insertion followed by coordinated strikes. The Vengeance can use its advanced cloaking systems to enter the system undetected. We deploy ground forces to assess the situation, and if possible, link up with any resistance. Once we have intelligence on enemy positions and capabilities, we launch a coordinated attack from orbit and ground simultaneously. Admiral Lee studied the simulation with interest. You seem confident, Colonel. I am, sir. My team has been analyzing Director Kim's transmission data nonstop. These Navy are silicon-based life forms. Our xenobiologists believe this makes them fundamentally different from us in ways we can exploit. She gestured, and the display changed to show modified weaponry. We've adapted our sonic disruptors based on the limited data. Silicon-based life forms may be vulnerable to specific frequencies that would cause their crystalline structures to resonate and potentially fracture. Defense Minister Hand frowned. That's a lot of theoretical science, Colonel. War always involves unknowns, Minister, Song replied calmly. But inaction guarantees failure. The Vengeance is our newest vessel, with technology the Navy won't have encountered. My Marines are the best trained special forces in Earth's military. If anyone can succeed, we can. Admiral Lee nodded. I agree. And there's another concern we haven't addressed. If we don't respond to this attack, what message does that send to other potential threats? That humanity abandons its outposts. That we lack the will to defend what's ours. The council members exchanged glances. Lee had made a point that transcended the immediate tactical situation. I move that we vote, said Admiral Lee. Operation Frostbite, as presented by Colonel Song. One by one, the council members cast their votes, some reluctantly, others with conviction. When the final tally appeared, the result was clear if not unanimous. Earth would fight. The next 48 hours passed in a blur of activity. The UES Vengeance, Earth's most advanced stealth carrier, was prepared for long-range deployment. 500 Marines and Special Forces underwent final equipment checks and mission briefings. Colonel Song personally selected each team leader, emphasizing adaptability and independent judgment. We don't know what we'll find, she told them. You'll need to make decisions in the field without constant communication. Trust your training. The weapons modifications continued until the last possible moment, with engineers and scientists working in shifts to adapt Earth's military technology to combat a silicon-based enemy. On the launch day, Admiral Lee addressed the assembled troops from the command deck, his image projected through the ship to reach every soldier. You carry humanity's response to an unprovoked attack, he said. Your mission is threefold. Rescue any survivors, gather intelligence on this new enemy, and demonstrate that attacking Earth's colonies carries severe consequences. The journey will be long, but you carry the hopes and determination of your entire species. As the massive engines of the UES Vengeance powered up, 500 soldiers entered cryosleep chambers. The 3-month journey to Iceball R67/4 would pass in what would seem like moments to them, their bodies preserved until arrival. Colonel Song was among the few who would remain awake during the journey. As the ship slipped into faster-than-light travel, she sat in her quarters studying everything known about the Navy. The data was frustratingly sparse, but she searched for patterns, weaknesses, anything that might give her people an edge. On her desk sat a single item, a small ice crystal paperweight from Iceball R67/4, a gift from an old friend who had been stationed there. She picked it up, watching light play through its perfect structure. Silicon-based, she murmured to herself. Crystalline structure, highly ordered. What happens to crystals under stress? They don't bend, they break. She set the paperweight down with new determination. For the next 3 months, she would prepare for war against an enemy unlike any humanity had faced before. And she would be ready. The UES Vengeance emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Iceball R67/4 system, its advanced stealth systems immediately engaging. The massive warship became virtually undetectable, its heat signature masked and its profile hidden from conventional scanning technology. On the bridge, Colonel Song studied the tactical display. The Na'vi ships orbited the frozen planet in a precise geometric pattern, their crystalline structures glinting in the pale sunlight. Their mining operations have expanded, noted her second-in-command, Major Bake. Thermal readings show significant activity on the southern continent. Colonel Song nodded. Any sign they've detected us? None, Colonel. Their patrol patterns remain unchanged. Good. Prepare the dropships. We launch during the next magnetic storm. Captain Min Ho Han checked his equipment one final time as his 20-person team boarded the stealth dropship. Each soldier carried modified weapons and survival gear designed for the harsh environment of R-67/4. The specially designed suits would protect them from the killing cold while masking their heat signatures from Na'vi sensors. Remember, Captain Han told his team, this is a reconnaissance mission first. We need intelligence before the main force can deploy. Stay quiet, stay hidden, and stay alive. Lieutenant Ji-1 Kang, his second-in-command, secured her helmet. Team is ready, sir. Weather models show the magnetic storm will provide maximum cover for the next 73 minutes. The dropship bay doors opened to the void of space. 3 small black vessels slipped out from the Vengeance's belly and descended toward the planet below. The magnetic storm raged across Iceball's upper atmosphere, electrical discharges flashing through the clouds like angry spirits. The dropships plunged into the maelstrom, buffeted by powerful winds, but shielded from detection by the natural interference. 30 seconds to touchdown, announced the pilot. Brace for landing. The vessels touched down in a narrow valley, 10 kilometers from the main colony. The storm raged overhead, snow and ice particles swirling in violent patterns that reduced visibility to mere meters. Captain Han was the first to exit, his boots crunching on the frozen ground. The planet's surface was even more forbidding than the briefings had suggested. A landscape of jagged ice formations and howling winds under a permanently gray sky. The temperature display on his helmet showed -97 degrees. Move out, he ordered. Form a perimeter. The soldiers spread out with practiced precision, securing the landing zone. The dropships powered down completely to avoid detection, their dark hulls soon covered by drifting snow. Lieutenant Kang consulted her navigation system. Colony is northwest, Captain. Terrain is rough but passable. For 6 hours, the team moved carefully through the frozen landscape, using ice formations for cover. They established observation points along the approach to the colony, deploying small sensor drones to gather preliminary intelligence. As twilight fell, a barely perceptible darkening of the already gloomy sky, they established a temporary position in an ice cave. First reports coming in from the drones, said communications specialist June, colony exterior shows significant modification. Crystalline structures have been built over the original human architecture. Captain Han nodded. Any sign-off? Movement at our 3 o'clock, whispered Lieutenant Kang suddenly, her thermal scope raised to her eye. Heat signatures approaching our position. The team immediately moved to defensive positions, weapons ready. Unknown contacts, approximately 200 meters in closing, Kang continued. Small group. Movement patterns are irregular, not consistent with Na'vi formations we've observed. Captain Han raised his hand. Hold fire. Could be survivors. They waited in tense silence as the heat signatures drew closer. Through the swirling snow, shapes gradually became visible, humanoid figures struggling through the deep drifts. They're human, breathed Lieutenant Kang. From the swirling snow emerged a group of 7 people, gaunt, haunted humans dressed in salvaged colony gear reinforced with scavenged materials. They moved with the caution of hunted animals, led by a limping man with a makeshift crutch. Captain Han stepped forward, keeping his weapon lowered. I'm Captain Min Ho Han, United Earth Defense Force. The limping man stared in disbelief. Earth sent someone. Yes. Who are you? Dad Jung Yoon, senior technician, Engineering section. His voice cracked with emotion. We thought no one was coming. Inside the ice cave, now secured with portable heating units, the survivors huddled around warm drinks provided from the soldiers' supplies. Their faces showed months of hardship, hollow cheeks, haunted eyes, and the thousand-yard stare of those who had witnessed horrors beyond description. Technician Yoon spoke for the group, his hands trembling slightly around his cup. We've been hiding in the abandoned mining tunnels north of the main colony. There are 43 of us total, scattered in small groups. It's safer that way. How did you survive the initial attack? Asked Captain Han. Some of us were in the deep mines when they hit. Others managed to escape during the confusion. We've been living off emergency supplies and what we can scavenge. What about the other colonists? Yoon's face darkened. The Na'vi have converted the main colony into some kind of processing facility. They're harvesting minerals, but that's not the worst of it. He paused, struggling with the words. They're using our people, the ones they captured alive, as organic batteries. Their technology runs on bioelectrical energy. They hook humans up to these crystal machines and train them. A shocked silence fell over the cave. Lieutenant Kang's hand tightened on her weapon. How many survivors are being held? Captain Han asked finally. Hundreds at least, maybe more. The Na'vi don't seem to understand that humans die when drained completely. Or maybe they don't care. They just replace them with others when they stop producing. Lieutenant Kang had been scanning the data collected by their drones. She looked up from her tablet. Captain, I'm detecting unusual energy patterns from the former research center. It's different from the rest of the colony. Yoon nodded. That's where their leader is. They call it the Prime. It's larger than the others, with more facets. All the Navy seem connected to it somehow. They operate with perfect coordination when it's directing them. A centralized command structure, mused Captain Han. That could be a vulnerability. They have weaknesses, said one of the other survivors, speaking for the first time. A woman with a scar across her face identified herself as former security personnel. Extreme temperature changes can crack their bodies, and certain sound frequencies seem to disorient them. We've used sonic mining tools to escape pursuit twice. Captain Han nodded and activated his secure communication link to the Vengeance. He transmitted the gathered intelligence in a compressed data burst. Colonel, we've made contact with survivors. Confirm 43 known survivors hiding in mining tunnels. Hundreds more being held as prisoners in the main colony, used as power sources for Na'vi technology. Colonel Song's voice came back, tight with controlled anger. Understood, Captain. Continue reconnaissance. Full tactical assessment needed before main deployment. Yes, Colonel. One more thing. The Na'vi leadership is centralized. A single commander they call the Prime coordinates from the research center. Could be a primary target. Excellent work, Captain. Hold position and continue intelligence gathering. Vengeance out. Captain Han turned to his team, determination hardening his features. We continue surveillance through the night. At dawn, we'll move closer to the colony perimeter. He looked at the survivors, these people who had endured months of terror and deprivation yet still fought on. We strike at dawn, he told his team, and we show these aliens what happens when you cage humans. The storm that had concealed their arrival 3 days earlier had finally cleared, revealing a sky of crystal clarity. Dawn broke over the frozen landscape of Iceball R67/4, casting long shadows across the modified colony structures. From their hidden observation point, Captain Han watched Na'vi sentries patrol with mechanical precision along crystalline walkways that had been grafted onto the original human buildings. All teams report ready, Lieutenant Kang whispered, her breath visible even inside her helmet. Captain Han nodded. And our packages. All sonic charges placed at the designated points. Detonators synchronized. For 3 days, Han's team had worked with the survivors, placing specially designed sonic charges at strategic points around the colony perimeter. Each device was calibrated to emit the exact frequency Lieutenant Kang had determined would affect the Navy's crystalline structures. Han activated his secure comm link. "Vengeance, this is Ground Team Actual. We are in position and ready." Colonel Som's voice came through clearly. "Understood, Ground Team. Operation Frostbite commences in 3 minutes. May your aim be true." Throughout the small team, soldiers checked their weapons one final time. The modified sonic rifles had never been tested against the Na'vi in combat. Everything depended on the theoretical work of the scientists aboard the Vengeance. 60 seconds, announced Lieutenant Kang. Captain Han looked at Technician Yoon and the other survivors who had insisted on joining the assault. Their makeshift weapons and determination spoke volumes about human resilience. 30 seconds. Above them, invisible in the pale morning sky, the UES Vengeance disengaged its stealth systems. Energy surged through its weapons arrays as targeting computers locked onto the Na'vi vessels in orbit. 10 seconds. Han raised his hand, ready to give the signal. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. His hand dropped. Execute. In perfect synchronization, 3 events occurred. First, the UES Vengeance revealed itself, opening fire with its main batteries on the unprepared Na'vi fleet. Second, Captain Han's team detonated the sonic charges placed around the colony perimeter. Third, strike teams led by Lieutenant Kang began their advance on the main colony entrance. The effect of the sonic charges was immediate and dramatic. The high-frequency sound waves, inaudible to human ears, caused the crystalline Na'vi to vibrate in visible distress. Some of the smaller soldiers actually cracked, fissures spreading across their faceted bodies. "It's working," shouted Lieutenant Kang over the tactical channel. "Move in now." The human forces surged forward, sonic rifles firing at any Na'vi still standing. The aliens tried to respond, but their usual perfect coordination seemed disrupted by the sonic assault. They moved erratically, their formations breaking down as each individual crystal being struggled against the resonance affecting its structure. Captain Han led the main assault team directly toward the colony's central hub. "Keep up the sonic barrage," he ordered. "Don't let them regroup." In orbit, the battle raged with equal intensity. The Na'vi ships, though technically advanced, had been caught completely by surprise. Colonel Song directed the Vengeance in a series of rapid attack runs, using the ship's superior maneuverability to avoid return fire while inflicting maximum damage. "Admiral Lee is reporting success," her tactical officer announced. "The Na'vi reinforcement vessels are being intercepted at the system edge." Song nodded grimly. "Continue the assault. Deploy Marine teams to boarding positions. I want those ships captured if possible." Back on the surface, Captain Han's team fought their way through increasingly desperate Na'vi resistance. As they approached the central research building, the sonic weapons began to lose effectiveness. "They're adapting," warned Lieutenant Kang, "changing their crystalline structure to absorb the frequencies." Han switched tactics, switched to thermal weapons. Yoon said they're vulnerable to temperature changes. The Special Forces teams deployed their secondary weapons, rifles that fired alternating rounds of superheated plasma and supercooled chemicals. The effect on the Na'vi was devastating. Their crystalline bodies, unable to handle the rapid temperature fluctuations, developed severe structural weaknesses. Fighting through the final defensive line, Captain Han's team breached the main research center. Inside, they found a horrific sight. Dozens of human colonists connected to crystal machines that pulsed with stolen bioelectrical energy. "Get medical teams in here now," Han ordered, his voice tight with controlled fury. In the central chamber, they found Director Kim. The colony leader was barely alive, his body withered and pale where it connected to a particularly large energy extraction device. Captain Han carefully disconnected the life-draining apparatus while a medic administered emergency treatment. Kim's eyes fluttered open, recognition dawning slowly. "Earth came," he whispered. "Yes, sir. We're here to take back what's ours." Kim's hand gripped Han's arm with surprising strength. They're prime, he managed to say, vulnerable to thermal shock, hot to cold. It's how we almost defeated them before. In the lower level. Hurry. Han left Kim with the medic and led his team deeper into the facility. They found the lower-level access sealed behind crystalline growths, which they quickly breached with targeted explosives. Inside was a chamber unlike any they had seen before, a vast space dominated by a towering crystalline entity at least 5 meters tall. Unlike the other Navy, the Prime had hundreds of facets that pulsed with internal light. From its base, crystal structures extended throughout the room like roots or tendrils, connecting to various devices. "That's their command node," said Lieutenant Kang, consulting her scanner. "It's broadcasting continuous instructions to all Navi forces." The Prime became aware of their presence. Its facets flashed with increasing intensity, and a high-pitched tone filled the chamber. Nearby crystals began to reshape themselves into defensive formations. "Now," ordered Captain Han. His team deployed their newest weapon, the Frostfire launcher that Colonel Song's engineers had developed based on the survivors' information. The weapon fired a superheated plasma burst, followed immediately by a stream of liquid nitrogen. The first shot struck the Prime directly. Its massive crystalline body glowed red-hot for a split second before the liquid nitrogen hit, instantly cooling the superheated surface. The thermal stress was catastrophic. Fractures appeared across the Prime's body, spreading rapidly as more Frostfire rounds impacted. With a sound like 1,000 glass windows shattering simultaneously, the Prime broke apart. Shards of crystal rained down across the chamber as the central coordination node of the entire Navi force disintegrated. Throughout the colony and in orbit, the effect was immediate. The Navi forces, suddenly cut off from their central intelligence, fell into disarray. Some continued fighting with diminished effectiveness, while others became completely inert. Colonel Song's voice came through on the command channel. "Captain, what's your status?" Han looked at the shattered remains of the Prime. "Target eliminated, Colonel. The Navi command structure is down." "Excellent work. Our sensors show their forces are in disarray. Press the advantage." The battle continued for several more hours, but the outcome was no longer in doubt. Without their Prime to coordinate them, the individual Navi proved unable to mount an effective resistance against the coordinated human assault. By nightfall, the last pockets of resistance had been eliminated. Medical teams worked tirelessly to free and treat the human prisoners from the energy extraction devices. Many would require extensive medical care, but they were alive. Captain Han stood at the colony's main viewport, watching Earth Marines secure the perimeter. Lieutenant Kang joined him, removing her helmet. "We did it," she said simply. Han nodded. "We did, but at what cost?" "A necessary one," she replied, "and one the Navi will remember." Humanity had reclaimed Iceball R67/4. The message had been sent to the stars. Attacking human colonies carried consequences that even the most alien of intelligences could understand. The reconstruction of Iceball R67/4 proceeded with remarkable speed. 1 month after the battle, the colony had begun to resemble its former self. Human engineers worked alongside automated construction units, removing the alien crystalline growths and rebuilding damaged structures. The mining operations had resumed on a limited basis, providing essential minerals for both the reconstruction effort and Earth's interstellar fleet. Director Jin Ho Kim watched from the window of the medical facility. His body was still recovering from the Navi energy extraction process. The doctors said he had lost 15 years of his life to the alien technology, but he had survived, unlike hundreds of his fellow colonists. "The new defense grid will be operational by next week," reported Security Chief Park, who had also survived by hiding in the deep mining tunnels. "Nothing will catch us unprepared again." Kim nodded. The physical scars of the Navi occupation were healing, but the psychological ones would take much longer. The survivors moved with a wariness that hadn't been there before, eyes constantly scanning the horizon as if expecting crystalline shapes to emerge from the ice. In orbit, the UES Vengeance maintained its protective position. Most of the Marines had returned to Earth, but Colonel Song had remained with a skeleton crew, overseeing the security arrangements for the rebuilt colony. The alert came during the night cycle. "Unidentified vessel approaching system edge," announced the tactical officer. Crystalline structure consistent with Navi design. Colonel Song was on the bridge within minutes. "Battle stations. Power weapon systems." "Wait," said the communications officer. "They're broadcasting on our frequencies. It's a request for parley." The Navi vessel maintained orbit at a respectful distance from Earth ships. Unlike the warships they had encountered before, this one was smaller, its crystalline structure forming elegant spiral patterns that seemed designed for beauty rather than intimidation. "We are receiving a transmission," announced the communications officer. The message that came through was still in the mechanical translated voice, but the tone seemed different, less commanding, more measured. "We extend communication to the carbon-based intelligence designated humanity. The collective desires exchange of information following recent conflict." Colonel Song consulted with Admiral Lee via faster-than-light communication before responding. "This is Colonel Jae-Hai Song of the United Earth Defense Force. We accept your request for communication." For 3 days, messages passed between the ships. The Navi representatives, who referred to themselves as facets of understanding, expressed something that translated roughly as surprise and reassessment. "We underestimated you," the Navi emissary transmitted on the 3rd day. "Your adaptability defies our understanding. The collective believed carbon-based life inherently inferior due to structural weakness. Evidence suggests this assessment was incomplete." Admiral Lee arrived from Earth to lead the negotiations personally. The talks were complex, with translation difficulties complicating already sensitive discussions about territory, reparations, and future relations. "They think differently than we do," Admiral Lee told Colonel Song after a particularly frustrating session. "Their hive-mind approach makes concepts like individual rights almost incomprehensible to them." Despite the challenges, progress was made. 2 weeks of intensive negotiation produced what became known as the Iceball Treaty, the first formal agreement between humanity and an alien species. The treaty established clear boundaries in space, recognition of mutual sovereignty, and a framework for limited cultural exchange. Most importantly for the survivors, the Navi agreed to significant reparations. On the final day of negotiations, the Navi representative made an unexpected offer. "The collective wishes to understand the carbon resilience. We request permission to observe your remembrance ritual." The memorial service was held on the colony's central plaza. All surviving colonists attended, along with military personnel and representatives from Earth. At the center stood a simple monument, a pillar of black stone engraved with the names of those who had not survived the occupation. Colonel Song addressed the gathering, her voice carrying across the silent crowd. "They thought we were weak because we're made of flesh instead of crystal. They didn't understand that our strength isn't in what we're made of, but in what we make of ourselves when faced with extinction." She looked up toward the sky, where the Navi vessel orbited. "Our adaptability, our capacity to work together despite our differences, our refusal to surrender even when victory seems impossible. These are the qualities that define humanity, not our physical form, but our spirit." Director Kim, supported by medical staff, approached the monument. Though still weak, he insisted on performing this duty himself. He placed a ceremonial flame at the base of the monument, the bright light reflecting off the polished stone. "We remember those we lost," he said, his voice barely above a whisper yet somehow reaching every ear. "Their sacrifice will not be forgotten." Admiral Lee stepped forward next. His uniform gleamed in the bright artificial lights of the colony dome. "Humanity sent its message to the stars today," he told the assembled colonists and soldiers. "We come in peace, but we will defend our own with everything we have." The crowd responded with solemn nods. There was no cheering, no celebration. Only a quiet determination that what had happened on Iceball R67/4 would never be forgotten and never be repeated. In orbit, the Navi emissary observed the ceremony through the ship's sensors. The concept of individual commemoration was alien to the collective consciousness of the Navi, yet something about the human ritual registered at a fundamental level. The united grief, the shared resolve, the way these separate beings moved as one without losing their individuality. It defied the Navy's basic understanding of strength. The emissary transmitted its observations to the collective. For the first time, the Navi began to comprehend what their species had failed to see before. The true strength of humanity was never technological, but rather found in its indomitable spirit and unwavering unity in the face of overwhelming odds. As the Navi diplomatic vessel departed the system, it left behind a marker at the system's edge. In human translation, it would read as a warning. Beyond this point lies the territory of humanity. They are not to be underestimated. On Iceball R67/4, life gradually returned to normal. The mining operations expanded. New colonists arrived to replace those lost. Children played in specially designed parks under the vast dome that protected them from the killing cold outside. And if the colonists seemed more watchful, more prepared, more united than before, that was simply the legacy of having faced extinction and emerged stronger. That was humanity's gift, and its warning to the stars. The end.